Good morning again, and welcome to Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, I have first, I will announce the breaking news from Atlanta, Georgia. The Democrats are lucky. This is just breaking in. The CNN and the NPR reported that African American, a pastor, a Democrat, Raphael Warnock, projected the winner of uh, the Senate race in Georgia. So Democrats won the race. So they just need one more. So that one is also the Democrat is so far is leading. If he keep that lead, so the Democrat will win uh, the Georgia Senate race, and which is very important for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris presidency to make tough decisions. So now we have one Democrat vote from Atlanta, Georgia. This is just breaking in. The Democrats won one vote, one Senate seat. One is still in it's not called yet, so we will see what's going to happen. But this is just breaking in. Democrats uh, and African American and a pastor, Raphael Warnock, won the Senate seat in Georgia. That's the breaking news. Just breaking news before I was ready to read the other news. Okay, here are the news for January 6, 2021, and welcome back again. The Tigray Liberation Front spokesman Gabre Gabretzadkan claimed again his forces ambushing the Ethiopian army units in Abraha Asbah and Hausen areas and killing more than 100 soldiers, including two major generals and a colonel. The spokesman also reported his fighters destroying 5 patrol vehicles and confiscating several Kalashnikovs and machine guns from the invading forces. These claims are not yet verified by other independent media. As usually, there is no independent media because of the restriction Abiy Ahmed and his supporters put on Tigray and on Oromia regions, Benishangul and other areas. So there is no way to verify. Very hard, no international medias in Tigray region, Benishangul or Oromia. We have no way to know. So we don't know. As you know, Benishangul is under military command post. Oromia is under military command post. So we don't know what's happening. How many died, how many killed, how many tried to escape and prevented, we don't know. It's sealed. And just pray it will be open up for one day for international media to know exactly what is happening on our citizens. A Reuters journalist and cameraman Kumara Gammachu released from Ethiopian jails after being held for more than 12 days. The Ethiopian government accused Kumara Gammachu without any proof of having contact with forces fighting the government and spreading news that can contribute to violence and instabilities in Ethiopia. The Abiy Ahmed administration is increasingly becoming intolerant of decent reporting in the country. So Abiy Ahmed uses whatever excuses that can help him to prevent journalists from reporting from the country. Freedom of speech and assembly are restricted even at the greater rate than at the TPLF time. The following journalists are still in Ethiopian jails. Udi Musa, Oromo Media Network, Abraha Hagos, Al-Alam, Haftu Gabre Xavier, and Tsagaye Hadish from Ethiopian Herald. Credit for Reuters and BBC. The talk over Ethiopia's greatest hydro dam is failed again due to Sudan's absence from the meeting. The Blue Nile Hydro Dam project is a major point of contention among three East African nations, namely Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. Ethiopia reported about completion of 70% of this project and vowed to reach the 100% target in the time of her choosing. Sudan and Egypt fiercely opposed this project, citing the scarcity of water flow to their region due to this huge project on Ethiopian side. The Sudan-Ethiopian border conflict could also create a huge hurdle to solve this hydro dam issue peacefully. Egypt summons Ethiopian diplomat over Nile Dam remark. Egypt's foreign ministry has said it has summoned Ethiopia's top diplomat in Cairo over comments by an Addis Ababa official regarding controversial dam on the Nile. They know the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will not harm them. It is a diversion from internal problem. Dina Mufti, the Ethiopian ministry spokesman and a former ambassador to Egypt, said on Tuesday. Mr. Mufti contended that without this distraction, Egypt and Sudan would have to deal with many local issues waiting to explode, especially up there in Egypt. In a new statement on Thursday, the Egyptian ministry condemned what it called an attack on the Egyptian state and accused Addis Ababa of using an aggressive tone to hide Ethiopia's multiple failures at home and abroad. It would have been better for the spokesman to pay attention to the deteriorating situations in his country, which is witnessing multiple conflicts and humanitarian crises that have killed hundreds and displaced tens of thousands of innocent civilians, it said. Credit for this one is Al Jazeera. So each exposing each other's problem, and the main issue is resolving the hydro dam, but Egypt is blaming Ethiopia as an issue, and Ethiopia is also playing a game like Sudan, and Egypt has their own internal conflict. So instead of talking about solving the big issue, they blaming each other on other issues. Yes, these problems exist on those countries. Displacement, killings, and so many other issues. U.S. Iran tension rising alarmingly. Iran has resumed enriching uranium up to 20%, from 4.5% to 20% in the country's biggest breach yet of its landmark nuclear deal with world powers. A government spokesman told state-run Mahir News on Monday. Also on Monday, Iran Revolutionary Guard seized a South Korean flagged ship carrying thousands of tons of ethanol in the Persian Gulf, according to the state-linked news agencies IRIB and Farsi News. The United States State Department said in its statement on Monday, the regime continued to threaten navigational rights and freedoms in the Persian Gulf as part of a clear attempt to extort the international community into relieving the pressure of sanctions. We join the Republic of Korea's call for Iran to immediately release the tanker. South Korea said 20 crew members were on board, five of whom are South Koreans. South Korea is targeted by Iran because South Korea is holding Iran's money by the order given from the U.S. enforcing sanctions. U.S. under President Donald Trump clearly stated that Iran must give up its nuclear technology and join the international community. Iran is moving in the opposite direction and it is coming closer to have nuclear weapons. The intent for war is boiling rapidly in the region unless the upcoming Biden administration handles it carefully and in a peaceful manner. So the other war may be coming in the Middle East because US and world powers, they don't want Iran to have nuclear power. But Iran insists and increasing the percentage to come closer to have a nuclear power. So how is going to be resolved? Possibly if Biden go to Obama era deal, it could be resolved. If not, the war is approaching very rapidly. Thankfully, Trump is out. Trump is out. He is the one, get out from the deal. All the United Nations, Europeans, Russians, Chinans, all these are part of it, and he just pull out of it. Iran get mad about all sanctions. They survived 4 years of Trump, and we'll see what is going to look like the other 4 years of Donald Biden, Joe Biden. Hopefully it will be good for peace and the stability of the world. United Kingdom judge denies WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange extradition to United States, citing suicide risk. Julian Assange is an Australian editor, publisher, and activist who founded WikiLeaks in 2006. WikiLeaks came to the international attention in 2010 when it published online a series of leaks provided by U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. He was sheltered in Ecuadorian embassy in London for almost 7 years, then taken into custody by UK authorities. If this extradition is allowed to US, Assange could face 175 years in jail for treason. Thanks to this UK judge's thoughtful decision, freedom of expression and journalism survived and enjoyed by million supporters around the globe. So Julian Assange, I don't know if you remember, it was a very controversial issue, you know, releasing all what the governments are doing behind the public, behind us, what they are hiding, what they are communicating. So he exposed a lot of things, what's happening, including Ethiopia, I think during Malaz Zenawi time, what are the secrets, between government. Many secrets exposed, thousands and thousands. So the government pissed off, angry. They tried everything to harm this guy, even accusing him of rape and many other issues. So America is eager to have him, but the UK government and the judge say no, he will not be extradited at this time. He will stay in London, and hopefully he will be okay. But he's very sick, very sick. He looks like very, very old because of maybe abuse in jails. Not only physical abuse, mental abuse. So he is a freedom. The public has a freedom to know what those governments are doing. They don't tell us nothing. They are hiding everything. They are hiding everything. When they are cooking wars, well, they are, doing a lot of stuff. So this guy, he contacted an army, security analyst, an American. He shared, and then he put everything online, everything. That's just, the public has a freedom to know. So that's all the reading part, and I have just a couple of videos for today to share with you, then we'll be done. Hopefully the other election result may be coming out. Let's see now. The first video is about Iraqis asking the Americans to get out, demanding the withdrawal of American soldiers. So let's listen.
Thousands of people filled Tahrir Square in central Baghdad. "We will not stop until we have our revenge," they chant. Revenge for the killing of Iranian Revolutionary Guards Chief Qasem Soleimani and the deputy head of Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, by a U.S. drone strike near Baghdad airport 1 year ago.
The blood of the martyrs will not be wasted. On the principle of Imam Hussein, this is a message for the world. After the Americans spread language of sectarianism and killings, our project will never end. It's an Islamic one.
We are here to remember the martyrs who were killed in the U.S. drone strikes, and we demand that U.S. forces leave this country. Wherever they go, they cause destruction.
On January the 5th last year, 2 days after Soleimani's assassination, Iraq's parliament passed a non-binding resolution calling for the approximately 3,200 American military personnel to leave. Prime Minister Mustafa Kadhimi, who took office in May, promised a timetable for that withdrawal. But many Iraqis accuse him of dragging his feet and kowtowing to US demands. The Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa Kadhimi agrees with the thousands of people that have gathered here today that there must be a withdrawal of US troops from Iraq. But many people here accuse him of listening too much to Washington and not acting fast enough to ensure that all American troops go.
The Iraqi government is the same as the American government. They are just working for American interests. Parliament voted to expel U.S. forces, but nothing has happened. If Americans don't leave on their own accord, we will force them to leave with our blood.
The outgoing Trump administration has promised to withdraw 500 U.S. military personnel from Iraq by mid-January. That would leave around 2,500 still in the country. It is unclear how the next U.S. President, Joe Biden, will respond to the situation in Iraq, a country analysts say is being politically, militarily, and economically dominated by neighboring Iran. But the message from these Iraqis is clear. Charles Strafford, Al Jazeera, Baghdad.
Okay, that's Iraq is asking for the withdrawal of U.S. soldiers as a challenge. And in 2003, the Americans went claiming all weapons of mass destruction then, and that thing is changed, spreading democracy, protecting products. Now the people say, hey, we don't need you, get out. So this is a challenge when there is lack of honesty between the government and the people, and for foreign aid too. Okay, this is the last one.
Text message marketing has an open rate of 99%, with 90% of text messages being opened.
No sooner had news trickled out of the courtroom and his supporters begun celebrating and chanting, ecstatic that after 10 years of legal fights, they had some form of victory.
We welcome today's decision. We are relieved that Mr. Assange will not be extradited to the United States. We share concerns about his health and his mental health. We have been highlighting this for quite some time, that he has been vulnerable, that we have stated, and I'll repeat today, that his extradition was a possible matter of life or death.
Earlier, Assange's team began the day with low expectations. His fiancée had called on Donald Trump to pardon the father of her two children. He arrived at the court in the back of his high-security van. Inside the courtroom, the judge dismissed most of Assange's defense, but she conceded that his mental health was such that to extradite him would be oppressive.
Julian Assange.
Come on, fire! This lengthy legal battle began with a video that shocked the world. Classified footage of U.S. Apache attack helicopters killing Iraqi civilians and journalists released by Assange.
It will shape an understanding of what the past 6 years of war has been like.
The U.S. accused him and WikiLeaks of being enemy combatants. For the past decade, through thick and thin, Assange always maintained he was a journalist. The saga is not over yet. The U.S. government said it will appeal today's decision.
Well, we're joined now by Niels Melzer. He's the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture and has visited Julian Assange in prison. He says the past 10 years have effectively been psychological torture for the WikiLeaks founder. Mr. Melzer, what's your take on today's ruling then?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Yes, clearly this judgment is a very important first step in the right direction. I think it is to be celebrated that the judge has recognized that the conditions of detention that Julian Assange would be facing in the U.S. are oppressive. In my view, and the view of many human rights organizations, they would actually amount to torture and other cruel and human or degrading treatment, and that therefore, for medical reasons also, he cannot be extradited to the U.S. So that is a very important first battle to be won in this fight, and a battle that is also for the prohibition of torture and the recognition of that prohibition. On the other hand, we have to recognize that most of the judgment actually goes very far, unfortunately, in confirming and sustaining the rationale underlying the U.S. Prosecution of Julian Assange, which could be setting a precedent by which other journalists could be prosecuted and extradited to the United States for espionage charges if they were to publish secret information.
So why did Mr. Assange's case in particular catch your attention?
To be quite honest with you, in the beginning, I refused to actually get into this case because I was very much marked by the same prejudices that the broader public has been affected by through the mainstream press reporting on Mr. Assange for 10 years. It was only when I started to actually look into pieces of evidence to see that whole narrative that had been spread about him for so long, was not supported by evidence. And that's what triggered my interest in this case. And I then visited him together with a medical team in Belmarsh Prison, and we found that he showed all the symptoms that are typical for persons that have been exposed to psychological torture for a prolonged period of time.
Can you go into a bit more detail on that? You're an expert on torture. So in which way has he been tortured, and what's your assessment of his condition right now?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's important to clarify that obviously modern forms of torture, they cannot be compared to the kind of medieval forms of physical torture. It is very much a cumulative process of destabilizing people through isolation, humiliation. It's also judicial harassment, which, and I mean by this, judicial proceedings that are not based on law, but are being conducted for political purposes, where procedural rights are systematically being violated. And so the person is being destabilized systematically. We've seen that in many countries in the world, many regimes that try to use torture methods that don't leave physical traces. And in the end, it breaks a person. And we actually have a confirmation of that precise process in today's judgment, because it confirms that Julian Assange's mental health is so fragile today that he cannot even be extradited to the U.S. without risking his suicide. And that actually confirms that his mental health has deteriorated dramatically, and that's also what we have observed together with my medical team.
Thank you very much. Niels Melzer, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture. A British judge has ruled that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange cannot be extradited to the United States to face espionage charges. Let's bring in now Renata Avila. She's one of Julian Assange's lawyers. Ms. Avila, you've been in the front line of Mr. Assange's legal battle for years now. What do you make of today's ruling?
Well, today's ruling, it was a victory for humanity, I will say. Even in the UK, and even after this punishment by process that Mr. Assange suffered for years and his family suffered for years, at least a glimpse of humanity arose from the decision of the judge. That they are deciding not to extradite him is the minimum human standard.
The denial of the extradition request came because of his frail mental health. What more can you tell us about his condition right now?
Well, his conditions amount to torture, basically, and it is something that it has been confirmed by Niels Melzer, the UN Special Rapporteur on arbitrary detention and against torture. And it does not diminish his value as a courageous journalist, and it does not diminish his ability and capacity to live a good life. And I think that this judgment is just the opportunity to save his life and save his value as a person for society. And it is a very sad judgment if we consider that the justice conditions had placed a journalist under such psychological and physical pressure during a decade. That's terrifying. In the center of power, in the center of the West, yeah.
But U.S. prosecutors have indicated that they'll appeal the decision of the court. Are you confident that you can fend off that appeal?
I think that I am confident that he's in a very solid position to win this case. There's a precedent, the Lori Love case precedent, which was won on appeal, and the case of Assange is in a solid position right now, and it is hard to question facts, and it is a fact. Medical facts are backing this decision. It's not an interpretation of the law. Solid medical facts documenting his health situation. And the mere appeal, it is shocking, actually. The only decent thing to do right now is to drop that case, to drop that extradition request.
You mentioned torture, which is a pretty heavy allegations. Is there any evidence for that? And B, did it play a role in today's decision?
There's a documented file by Niels Melzner, a UN Special Rapporteur, documenting all the suffering that he has gone through. And of course, it helped a lot having solid evidence on the deterioration of his mental health and his physical health under the conditions he was subject to. Just to give you an example, he was even denied the right for years, even the right to go outside the window and have some sunlight on his face. Things like that. The accumulation of abuses by authorities, by different authorities from Sweden, from the UK, and from the US led to the result of today. I hope he can recover fully.
Renata Vila, for Julian Assange's lawyers, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's DW. Thank you. And, you know, we should appreciate the courage of such kind of journalists, activists, for exposing some bad government deeds. For example, as you saw on the video, thanks to him, the American soldiers attacking Iraqi civilians and the journalists. If it's not for WikiLeaks, nobody knows about this. What is the reason to attack unarmed journalists, unarmed civilians? What is the purpose? So we should appreciate the courage of journalists, activists for standing up for right and for using freedom of expression to get the information in whatever possible ways. And in the point of torture, torture is not only physical. Torture, as they said, is mental too, you know. That's how, you know, it's in the case of Oromo political prisoners in Ethiopia, like hiding the prisoner, moving the prisoner from place to place. That's a torture by itself. You are torturing the family, you are torturing the imprisoned person, and keeping them for extended period of time without proper legal procedure, without hearings, without no evidence, you know, just keeping them in jail. That's a torture by itself. Torture is not only just beating, doing, you know, the bad stuff they talking about during TPLF. It can be psychological torture and other kind of tortures, and denying the hearing, and keeping prisoners for extended period of time without any evidence on crime they claim, you know, is done by these political prisoners. So we hope, you know, the international community, the Ethiopians, they wake up and demand justice for those prisoners and demand their release before the upcoming elections. So That's all I have for today. Let me see if the Georgia election, any update on Georgia election, if the second win may come. Let's see. Okay. Still the same. The guy, John Ashoff, leads, but not declared yet. It's not declared the winner yet. Let's see.
Our institutions.
Okay. Nothing updates. So far, it's only one Senate seat is confirmed from Atlanta, Georgia. The second one is still Democrat leading, but it's not declared yet. So hopefully he will win and give Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats a chance to govern for the next 2 maybe plus years with a breaking vote in a Senate. This time, from previous hearings, all this controlled by Republicans. Nothing can be done. Nothing. So if the Democrats win these two, they won one. If they win the second one, it will be 50-50, and Kamala Harris will be the breaking vote. So it's good for Biden and Kamala Harris and for all Democrats. Thank you again. Thank you for listening and taking the time. And still, I appreciate if you have any comments, concerns, and if you can share factual news, appreciate it. You can use BIREKE663@gmail.com if you have any factual news. So thank you, and see you again with other news and comments. So long, everyone.